The legislation before us today is based on the good oversight work of this subcommittee and is a product of bipartisan discussions, and I anticipate a productive session this morning. As we open the markup, I would like to take a moment to highlight just a few aspects of the legislation and anticipated amendments that are of special importance to me, along with my Democratic colleagues. I'm proud to be an original co-sponsor of the first measure to be considered today, H.R. 3846, the United States Customs and Border Protection Authorization Act. I also support the gentlelady's from California's amendments that has just been put forward. U.S. Customs and Border Protection is among the largest and most significant of the Department of Homeland Security components, ensuring the security of America's borders while facilitating the legitimate trade and travel that is so essential to our nation. I have enjoyed working with Chairwoman Miller, and I think over the last year and a couple of months, we've made great strides in improving and confronting some of the undone issues dealing with customs, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, including the Coast Guard authorization and other aspects. It is imperative that CBP is authorized in laws that exist today to ensure that Congress can conduct proper oversight of the agency and its programs. This legislation does just that. My Democratic colleagues and I will be offering amendments, as we are doing at this time, intended to enhance and refine the bill. I will speak in more detail about my amendments at the appropriate time, but wanted to highlight two at the outset. The first is an amendment to help address the recent surge in the number of unaccompanied alien children entering the U.S. at increasingly younger ages, and particularly in my home state of Texas. The issue, I believe, requires immediate attention from the Department and Congress, given that the welfare of so many children are at stake. The second is an amendment to increase by an additional 2,000 the number of CBP officers deployed at our ports of entry, and it has been documented that the need is there. Congress recently provided the resources necessary to hire 2,000 CBP more officers, which is a step in the right direction, but at least 2,000 additional are still needed. I understand the budgetary constraints within which Chairwoman Miller is working. Chairwoman knows that I have stood fast against sequestration and believe it should end in order to provide our country with the best security that we can provide. But I would be remiss if I did not raise the issue of staffing during consideration of bill authorizing the agency. So many of the challenges CBP faces at our ports of entry are related to or affected by persistent staffing shortages, well-trained staff, of which I know they desire. Congress has a responsibility to continue to do its part to alleviate those shortages. With respect to H.R. 3488, which would establish the conditions under which the Secretary of Homeland Security could establish and conduct pre-clearance operations, I appreciate Chairwoman Miller's efforts to address the concerns of both the Department and domestic air carriers in crafting the measure before us today. It is imperative that as we seek to push out our nation's borders through pre-clearance and other programs, we do so in a risk-based manner that is mindful of impacts to our economy and the traveling public and security. That is why I plan to offer two amendments to this bill. The first, which is based on provisions included in a pre-clearance bill I introduced last year, would require a security assessment for new pre-clearance locations. The second would require any country entering into or renewing pre-clearance agreements with the U.S. to routinely report lost and stolen passport data to Interpol. Finally, I'm especially pleased the subcommittee is considering H.R. 3202, the Essential Transportation Worker Identification Credential Assessment Act, today. This is a bill I introduced with the support of Chairwoman Miller as an original co-sponsor to require an assessment of and a corrective action plan for the Troubled Transportation Worker Identification Program, TWIC. The Government Accountability Office has identified the serious shortcomings with the program as implemented that may undermine the intended purpose of the TWIC and make it difficult to justify the cost of program to workers. The required assessment should give Congress the information it needs to determine how best to proceed with the program. Madam Chairman, I appreciate the bipartisan nature of the work on these bills to date, and thank you and your staff for their cooperation. I hope this cooperative spirit will prevail as the bills move to full committee and ultimately the full House for consideration. Again, I support the gentlelady's amendments from California, and I look forward to a productive markup this morning. Yield back the balance of my time.